Hi, and thank you for joining us for another webinar. I'm Michael McCarthy, and this is Alex Price. And we are talking today about information security and staying on top to staying one step ahead of scammers. So this has been a topic that's been coming up for us and clients over and over again. If you are a regular viewer of our webinars, you'll know that 4 or 5 months ago, maybe 6 months ago, we did another one on this topic, but it keeps coming up so often, we just wanted to hit it from a little bit of a different angle. So today we're going to be going over five basic areas of keeping yourself safe online and keeping yourself safe kind of with your identity and other things of that nature. Passwords, navigating the internet safely, phone security, common scams, and how to protect yourself. So the first thing we're going to talk about is passwords. One of the biggest issues out there is that people have a tendency to use their password more than one time. And the biggest issue that this presents is that, maybe you have the same password at your bank, at bedbathandbeyond.com, and at Facebook,
eBay. Yeah, I mean, I did the same thing up until honestly probably about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So when I started working here with some more sensitive passwords and we implemented Dashlane, which we'll talk a little bit about. But yeah, I mean, mine was a sports team and the same 2 numbers, and that was it everywhere, which was nice because if I forgot it,
yeah, well, it's probably this password. Well, the biggest issue is that while your bank may be doing a fantastic job in protecting its databases, Bed Bath and Beyond may not be taking quite as much care, or maybe it's some other very fringe small website. And the problem is most of the time your username is your email. And then if you're using that password more than once, what the scammers do is they say, okay, well, we have this username and this password. We're going to try it at wellsfargo.com, bankofamerica.com. We're going to keep trying it in all these other places. And that's not all we're going to do. We are going to add it to a database and sell it online to other people who want to commit frauds. So that is why you need complex passwords and you should not recycle them.
And it's not something that, I mean, we could do it ourselves. We could come up with random characters and write them down and save it somewhere secure. Realistically, that's going to be a pain.
Yeah.
No one's going to do it if that was the only way you could do it. So at least our company, and I'm sure a lot of other companies and some people on this call, since we've mentioned it, are using a program kind of like Dashlane, which can generate these long strings of numbers, letters, special characters. If you ever had to type it in yourself, it would take you a couple minutes.
Yeah, so Dashlane, LastPass, some of these other ones, what they do is they generate a complex password and then they store it. And you have to keep one complex password for Dashlane. You have to make sure you don't lose that password. And then once you log into Dashlane, Dashlane will log into those sites with those complicated passwords for you. Not always perfect. Like anything, there's a give and a trade. The biggest one that comes up for me is we're all probably using streaming services on our TVs or Amazon Fires, and inevitably you have to type the thing in on this tiny little remote. And you know what? The thing stores it, so it's a little bit of pain. The other things that we wanted to bring up is multi-factor authentication. So with Schwab, even with the Financial Consulate portal, many websites don't require you to have multi-factor, but you should. And what that is in addition to putting your username and password in, you have to maybe get a text message and put in a code, or you have an app that generates a code. Wherever you can turn on multi-factor authentication, you should, because every time you get compromised in one place, it could lead to compromising in other places.
And you're starting to see it offered more and more places. It used to just be like your bank or any other financial ones. I know now I do it for any social media, which we'll talk about, a lot of social media problems. Restaurants, I know Domino's, I think, has dual factor. Everyone starts to have them now. And it's just that extra security blanket, because even if you have a difficult password, it can still get guessed.
And lastly, on passwords, you should allow your bank, especially, or anything with sensitive information about you, to send you push notifications, whether it be on your phone or by email, to let you know somebody has logged into your account and you know whether or not it was you.
Yeah, and so for example, I have it for Discover Bank, and I set dollar thresholds. So anytime anything of excess of $10 goes out or $10 comes in, I also get an email saying, hey, money moved one way or the other. So
yeah, very good. So our next topic is navigating the internet. Slow and steady wins the race, is the old saying. Well, be slow to click. I know it's hard because especially now with that European privacy thing, where now every website, when you go on it, it'll come up with something. You have to hit OK, you accept the terms to go on. Slow down, make sure you're on the website that you want to be on, and make sure that you at least understand what you're clicking on. There's a lot of fraudulent pop-ups that occur that are made to look like that aren't. But the first couple questions to ask yourself is, how well do I know this site? Am I on, bofa.com, or am I on socialsecurity.gov, or am I on some website that I thought was a news article on my normal news website, but now I'm on some kind of fringe news agency thing that may not be as well protected? A big tool is to look up in the top left-hand corner and see if that little lock is there next to the URL telling you there's a certificate. But you brought up an interesting point on those.
Yeah, so we were talking a little bit beforehand, and in my experience, I've always seen it kind of imprinted at the bottom of the page or thrown whichever corner.
Verified.
Verified, super protected, gold level, whatever it may be. And I asked Mike, how do you verify that? Because it seems like it's just an image someone could throw up on their website.
You don't. That's just don't take any faith in the fact that it says somewhere in an image on the site, verified or gold standard, whatever. But the little lock next to the URL that's part of your browser software, that at least gives you some level of security. Doesn't mean that you should, feel like everything's okay just because of that. And I kind of brought this up before, but one of the things that's unfortunate is as more of us get our news online and less of us watch television, and when we do, we fast forward through the commercials, news agencies are having to come up with new forms of revenue. And one of the things that they have started to do is sell space on their site where advertisers put up things that look like stories from the same news agency you're on. And you really have to be careful of this. Sometimes it's just misinformation that they're trying to put out. Other times it is something that they think people will click on, and then it'll come up with that, is it okay to do this? And one of the ones that I almost had hit me one time is it was one of those, and I clicked a little too fast, and I did click it. And what it did is it allowed for browser level notifications or operating system notifications. And once that was there, the operating notifications that came up, there was still no problem because it was just showing me content, but those were fraudulent links. So luckily just easy enough to then undo that, but something to watch out for.
Yeah, and I'll say along those lines, a tool that I use at home on my personal computers is AdBlock, like an extension. Most browsers have it, Chrome, Firefox, I'm sure Safari does. And whenever you get it, it essentially reads the page and finds out where these clickable ads are, things like that, and just takes it out of the picture.
I did not know that, and so I'm going to be getting instruction on that after this.
And it can be night and day if you're used to it, and then you go to like New York Times or something without it, and the whole screen is just filled with pictures you didn't know were ever there. So just a tool that you can look into.
That's great. So when you're on a website, some red flags are, and this can be websites as well as email sometimes, anytime there's a sense of urgency, but really the most popular is fear and greed. Your IP address that you're coming from tells the ad company what area you're in. So you'll see, something says, I live around near Bel Air, and it will say, Bel Air drivers have saved 15% on their car insurance with this little trick. Well, that is a scam. Just because it seems very targeted. It's, if you can save money, you can make money, or you could lose money if you don't do this. Those are all generally signs of a scam, as well as still poor grammar. Technology is amazing, but there's still a lot of third world countries that haven't figured out spell check. So, and then lastly, unknown brands.
Yeah, any popular items that maybe you're looking to buy and they're not in stock anywhere, and then you find that one website that they're in stock and they're half off, maybe question it a little bit. Look up some reviews, some third party people who have actually gone through the process, and just be safe.
Yeah. So social media.
Yeah, I mean, huge. I actually, this past week, I was noticing something weird from one of my friends. He's a real estate agent in Baltimore, and he started posting this get rich quick scheme, essentially. And I was like, this doesn't sound like my friend. And he was showing a stack of cash and says, I gave so-and-so $250 and I got 15,000 from it. Like, I'm so blessed. My life's been changed, message me for more details. Well, it turns out they added an I to his username in between where there already was one I. So there were two, looked just like his normal handle. And sure enough, he made another account, couldn't even get it back, said, please unfollow and report. So
wow. Yeah. So that's actually very similar to something called that we have up on the screen called digital kidnapping. And this is where one of your online accounts is stolen and they attempt to ransom it back to you. So maybe that group that kind of gets his username says,
yeah.
hey, you want your username back, wire $10,000 here or $100 or whatever it might be.
Yeah. And the bargaining power there is how many people are following you, how many people are seeing this. Because if you have, 1,000, 2,000 people, that's pretty valuable to them.
I know I've seen contacts in my social media that have got a real hookup on Ray-Ban sunglasses for 50% off.
That's the popular one I've seen.
Yeah. So here's one that I think a lot of our viewers may be interested in. And so Facebook is probably the social media platform that the widest group of people from an age standpoint are on. And as any of you who are on Facebook know, there's politics on it now. One of the things that has been happening a lot is people form these fraudulent groups. And this fraudulent group will initially appear as something that you really support, you're interested in, shares your views. So it will then go out and try to get tons and tons of followers, supporting the rhetoric of whatever it's displaying. And then what they do is, now that they're in your feed, they change the entire content of it to the opposite perspective. And then they somehow get access through your authorizations to information about you and contacts, and then send out that you're in support of this group. So be very careful if somebody invites you to a group or Facebook suggests a group that you might like to join. Be very careful of it. There were also in the past, but I think they've started to crack down on these abilities where once you joined a group, the group was able to change certain information for you. So be very wary of, is this really a group? Is this person really somebody who would, send me this group? But really, let's start to the beginning is, how much should you share on Facebook? How much information do you want to make available to the global world of hackers and fraudsters to use against you? There are other scams we're going to talk about, but a lot of these other scams are predicated on the fact that they were able to go to social media and learn something about you that then they were able to use to fool you later. So as far as for me and my Facebook, it's just my kids and my pictures of my kids at this point for other family members. But
yeah. Well, something interesting. So I was setting up a computer and it had security questions. And I started thinking about it, somebody could probably guess a lot of those security questions from my Facebook profile.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was the year and make of your first car? Well, I was pretty proud about it.
What football team do you punish yourself following?
Yeah, that's a slim option. If you look from 2000 to now, who's been the worst?
He's a Dolphins fan, in case for context.
Mom's maiden name. So many of these questions can even be found on social media. So something else to be thinking about.
Yeah. And one of the biggest ones that the police will tell you is, do not post when you're going away on vacation. If you want to post your vacation pictures, post them when you get home. That way, anybody who wants to rob your house has a little bit harder time deciding whether or not you're there. We can all remember Home Alone.
Yep.
So, yeah, and then with that, like you were just saying, like mom's maiden name, like, you're going to display a lot of information about your relationships online, and that's also information that can be used against you. Everything has to, everything's a give and take. You have to figure out where you fit in this. So heading on to emails, which is probably the number one source of issues we've had with clients. But do you have that first one?
Yeah. So, unknown recipient, you get thousands more than I get. I'll say I get 100. Mike gets 1,000 a day. And probably 90% of those are not clickable. Yep. Or so. Other companies, sales messages, warranties, even companies that you use. So we use a lot of Microsoft products. You get a Microsoft email telling you to change your password, things like that. So obviously first layer of protection with an email comes in, Who is it? Have I talked to them before? Is it a service I even use?
Is this the normal way this would happen? Microsoft never makes you change your password via an email. It comes up as a prompt from the operating system.
Yeah.
So one of the things you can do is take your cursor and highlight over the name of the sender and look to see if that actual address matches where you'd expect it to be. So one of the things that happens a lot here at our company is because on LinkedIn, you can tell what my job description is and you can tell what other people's job description is. And I will get an email that says it's coming from Chuck Bender, our CFO. Actually, I'll take it back, it goes the other way. Chuck Bender, our CFO, will get an email that says it's Mike McCarthy, but when you highlight over it, it's, SpongeBob at, Gramercy.com or something else like that. But it'll say Mike McCarthy has sent you this email and, Chuck, I need you to wire company funds to this account, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So highlight over the URL and look at it and see, does that really make sense? Kind of attached to that, if it is something that you would want to click through to get to your bank account, to get to socialsecurity.gov, don't click that link. Go to socialsecurity.gov and navigate to where you log in and then navigate to notifications. That's another good one. But also, sometimes that URL might look like it's the right one, except for just like you said, your friend with the
Extra character.
extra character, they'll have added, just some little tweak to it. One of the ones that I would implore everyone not to do, the president the other day was going to make an address and I wanted to watch it live. And I went to go to whitehouse.org. Whitehouse.org is not affiliated with it. White House. Whitehouse.com, not affiliated with White House. Only whitehouse.gov. So people buy these other, what are those called?
Just different address names.
Yeah, different address at the end, to be careful.
And I've even seen where they'll just, so you're typing and you fat finger it or you misspell it, and that's also up there too. So maybe you're going to ESPN and you type EPSN instead of ESPN. It might be a website. So they're crafty.
Go slow.
Go slow.
So attachments, this is the biggest thing. Just don't open them. Don't open attachments. I mean, if any of you, for anybody who's worked with our client services, they'll know that like you have to pull teeth to get us to email something to you as an attachment because we just don't want you to ever get used to opening an attachment from us.
And if we get sent them, we'll politely redirect to the portal for future ones too, because we want you to be secure as well.
Right. So in the event that you got an attachment and you feel like it's something that you really have to have, take the extra step, call the person using not a phone number that's in the email, reach out to that organization or individual and say, did you send me this? The other thing that common topics is an unpaid invoice. We need you to verify your information. You've won a prize, various other things. Package, your package has been misdelivered. If you want this package delivered, click here. All of those things are just the common scam types that are out there.
And it's big for us. And a lot of these, I hear them and I think like, oh, we've seen that before. We have a company that tests us and tests all the employees in here with these kind of targeted emails, and they're good.
Yeah. And if you mess it up, you get to do 45 minutes of training.
Yep. And I get to see it pop up. So-and-so opened it, so-and-so clicked the link, made it however far. But they're good. Starbucks gift cards and Uber Drive was a good one. Uber out and it wasn't you. Anything that cost you money that you didn't do, you're pretty apt to click on it.
Yeah, and that's a great point. Is a lot of these things are shotgunned out with some brand, and you're like, oh, well, that has to be for me because a scammer wouldn't know that about me. Yeah, they just sent it to everybody, and they figured some of you had an Ann Taylor Loft account. Couple of the common ones we wanted to share that our clients have seen a lot of is the IRS, especially. We're going to talk about phone calls later, but especially phone calls, but even emails. And one of the big ones that's gotten people a couple times is, Dell Computers is a very popular computer brand. It's the kind that we use as well. And a number of our clients have Dell computers. And a number of clients also pay for Dell support. And they will get an email from Dell support saying they need to click here to update their software. And they say, hey, I have a Dell computer. I pay for Dell support. And they click here. And then it says, please call this number. And they get them on the phone and they start kind of trying to working through them and taking hostage of laptops. We've had countless people, multiple, maybe 4 or 5 people per year getting stuck in these things, which is why we're doing this again. But social security stuff. And then again, colleague messages like I shared about, Chuck's always getting emails from me that want him to wire money or do something urgently, and it's not me.
Yeah.
So mobile security.
Yeah, this is probably my least favorite one, with the phone calls and the spam calls. And it's even worse when you're expecting a call from a number you probably don't have, because then you're like, should I answer it?
And they
Should
can
I
spoof,
not?
the areas where you get calls from.
Yeah. And I'll say Apple's gotten a little bit better for people who have iPhones of screening it and just never even showing it to you. And I'll say this was probably a spam call. We didn't even entertain the idea of it. The logic I go by, if it's important, they'll leave me a voicemail.
Yeah. And that really is, if you're not absolutely sure of the phone number calling and that you expect a call, just let it go to your voicemail and call them back. Every once in a while, maybe you have something where you feel like you got to pick it up, but it's best not to. The biggest reason not to is also the biggest reason, if you get a scam call and you've picked up the phone, don't start talking. Because as soon as you start talking, even if they don't get you to fall for the scam they wanted you to fall for, they're going to click a little check mark in their database. And that means your phone number just got added to their list of verified phone numbers that have picked up that they resell to other people. So unless you like getting those phone calls, don't answer them. Second, if you answer it, don't say anything, just hang up with no sound so you don't get added to the higher value list of people and get even more of those calls. Yeah, so I think we kind of covered all that. So text messages is a new one.
Yeah, and it's tough because, with everybody having access to the internet on their phone, they can throw links in a text message as well. I've seen Amazon order, click here to track, or, click here to confirm so-and-so. So not only are you having to worry about emails and attachments and links, but they're going straight to your cell phone now.
Well, and the newest one that I've seen is you'll get a text message that someone says something like, Betty, I don't know why you're doing this. We're all really worried about you. Please at least text me back. And you're thinking, oh my gosh, they've got the wrong phone number. I better let them know. Well, you just got yourself added to the database of people who text back. So this is a good phone number. So there is a lot of stuff out there, that you just got to be wary of. So even though you want to be a good citizen and let that person know they're texting, just delete it, especially if you see that you're in a group. And one of the things I always notice is that it's my cell phone number, and then it's the 10 numbers before and after mine, because they're just testing all the phone numbers with a bot. Number neighbors. I didn't know that term. So just some other tips as we start to bring this into the station is mail. We've talked about all this online stuff, but be careful about the mail. It still gets used. The biggest thing is these disguised letters that look like they're from Social Security, or they look like, they're an invoice you owe. If you have a URL, which I know a lot of people don't, but if you have a URL, a lot of people will be able to find an address associated with it and tell you that you need to renew it, but that renewal isn't real.
A lot will say action required, or red letters, or return service, things that make you definitely open it and then feel
responses required by the federal government.
Yeah.
So what about public Wi-Fi?
Yeah, this is it's offered everywhere, pretty much. If you have the option on your phone where it displays when it's available, you'll just be driving sometimes and stop at a red light and it'll pop up and say, public Wi-Fi available, airports, restaurants, things like that. Just know that if you go on something like that, you're essentially linked with everybody else who's on it.
And that somebody could be viewing your actions.
Yep.
So old devices, you unfortunately cannot, just because your 5-year-old laptop still works, doesn't mean you should still keep using it. Our rule of thumb is about 5 years is when you should just upgrade. But just as important with that is making sure that you're keeping your antivirus up to date. But Windows 7, if you're listening to this and you have Windows 7, you are at extreme risk. Microsoft stopped over a year ago now, supporting Windows 7. So that means that any new flaws that hackers find in Windows 7s are not going to be fixed. So you need to do that.
And with that also is, what do you do with your old devices? So as Mike mentioned, we upgraded a lot of stuff here because of that Windows change and the security updates. And we took the time and unscrewed and took the hard drives out of them, have the laptop shells in one place, the hard drives in the other to get shredded, or I was talking to a friend and he said they basically just drill a hole right through it whenever you take it to a computer shop.
No, we're very green here. We take it to a company that charges us a lot of money and erases it, heats it, melts it, and then recycles the metals. But and then what about VPNs? Can you tell us about those?
A little bit. It's something. So I have a computer at home and I'm on it, and streamers and things like that are always advertising these VPNs, and it's relatively cheap. It's another way to just protect yourself on the internet and not let your location be known.
Yeah, if you're somebody who's really worried about privacy, we were just having a talk about this, that I've decided that as I slowly age, I'm still very young, but as I slowly age, I don't care as much anymore. They can know, I don't care. But if you're somebody who doesn't want that kind of stuff, if you operate with a VPN, that is stopping all the advertisers and any other types of actors out there from kind of tracking you on your way through the internet. It also keeps your ISP. If you're really worried that Verizon's, paying attention to your web activity and is going to turn you in for something, well, first off, don't do whatever they're going to turn you in for. But other than that, the VPN would stop that.
Yeah, and they do cost a fee. So if you go to look for it and you see it costs $4 a month or something, that's normal. Just so that it's a legitimate billing process there.
Yeah, so we're just going to do a kind of a quick overview here of some of the points. Is consider using a password manager. You have to be diligent about your use of a password manager. You have to make sure you understand it. So if you need someone to help you with it, get somebody to help you with it. Make sure that you've written your password down, and that one password you've written down and put it somewhere safe. Yeah. But also, if the password manager lets you set up an emergency contact, someone who can recover your account, make sure you do that.
And it's a great tool. It's not going to be super easy to start with. We added it, and Mike and I helped everybody in here with it. And there's a lot of speed bumps along the way.
I think we've had 2 people get locked out, right?
Yeah, and myself.
I thought I was wondering.
Myself included. So I had a password. It alerted me that a password had gotten compromised. It shared a couple of the words. So I said, I'm going to be safe, change it. And then I forgot what I changed it to because I was so used to typing in that one really long one. Luckily, I was able to retrieve everything. Normally, if you forget that and you don't set up these contacts or a PIN, like a safety, in case of emergency, enter this PIN, they delete it.
Yep,
and
game
you
over.
Lose everything.
Which you normally can recover things. It's just more work. But anyway, it's a good tool if you use it. Get good antivirus. Make sure it's up to date on your computers. WebRoot, Malwarebytes, and Bitdefender are some of the ones that DP Solutions, our IT provider here, that we also had speak to anyone who watched the one a few months ago. But the beating drum. The one thing that we have been telling people for years and years and years, and we still have people who come because they have got a problem now and they didn't do this, is the credit freeze.
Yeah, and it's at the end of every plan of every person that comes through our doors. It's in what seems you guys like to do, the New Year's resolution video. Yep. At the end of the month. That's always on there. And it's because it's not a fun thing to do.
And it's pain. It's kind of an annoyance later, but
exactly,
it's worth it.
Yeah. So if you need those links, again, there's 4 links. Reach out to your RM or a point of contact here at the consulate, and we can send those out to you.
So along the same line, check your credit reports. Drew, says like, hey, you got 4 of them. There's once every 3 months. But whether you do that good, at least once a year, go through your credit reports and make sure that everything in there is correct. And go slow. That's the name of the game. Go slow, think about it. Think about your action. I mean, it's, in many things, if you go slow and you think about your actions, you'll save yourself. If you get to something and you're not sure, find someone who's qualified, whether it's a family member that is very good with technology, or sometimes we've had clients call us and say, hey, I've got this thing. What do you think about it? And we can help look at those red flags and do that, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people in the office will send myself or you an email, say, is this legitimate? Because we do a lot of the licensing. Do I need to change my password is the pretty common one. So yeah, it doesn't hurt to get a second set of eyes on things.
Well, and I think that concludes us. Hopefully we got in our time allotted, but if you have any questions, you can reach out to us at 410-823-7283. You can find us at financialconsulate.com. And you can email us at info@financialconsulate. We hope this has been helpful.
Yeah, thanks for listening.